Welcome back to Hot Air with me, Joshua Robert, where we cut through the noise, and this month we are getting to the heart of queer history. And happy motherfucking Pride Month. I'm gonna grab my glass. I made myself a raspberry lemonade little cocktail. You can hear it if you're on a podcast app. If you're watching, you might not be able to see it if you're on YouTube. There's glitter in my drink, and my friends always make fun of me for always putting glitter in my cocktails, but why the fuck not is my answer. So, cheers, queers. And before we get into the nitty gritty of it, this whole month we are doing episodes all about the gays, all about the gay community, LGBTQ+. I'm going into some history, some laws. What else am I getting into? I'm getting into a little bit of the religion of it all, but it's all going to be very educational and all-encompassing, and I'm hoping that the next 4 episodes, which are just going to be me, no guests on the next 4 episodes, unless I change my mind after recording this, but most likely it's just going to be me and you and a lot of gay goodness. Help me celebrate Pride Month by sharing this podcast with all your gay friends, even the muscle gays who I came after in a previous episode. You're still part of my heart and part of the community. So spread the love this Pride Month. Now, before Pride was a parade with glitter and corporate floats like we have now, it was a riot, a literal brick-throwing, police-defying riot. And today, we are diving into the Stonewall Riots, and not the sanitized version, but the raw, real story of resistance. And you may be sitting there asking, why are we even doing this episode? Well, A, because I fucking feel like it, and B, because some of us clearly need a history lesson, and C, it's important. We need a history lesson because we forget things very quickly. We forget where we came from, how far we have clawed our way forward, and how much absolute bullshit we still wade through on a daily basis just to exist. And before we do that, we're going to take a small little detour, but stay with me. I promise this will make sense because everything I say ends up making sense. So I work with 2 21-year-olds. They are basically children. And I casually asked them the other day if they knew who Shania Twain was. And one of them, dead serious, said, "Isn't that a guy?" Or maybe she said, "Isn't that a dude?" Either way, I nearly had to lay down on the floor. So yeah, this one is for the baby gays who have no clue what came before glitter crop tops and Drag Race reruns. It is for the confused straights who genuinely want to understand their queer friends and family. And honestly, it's for anyone who has ever asked, do we really still need a Pride Month? And motherfucking spoiler alert, we sure as hell do. And we are not done fighting until equal isn't just a decorative word in a mission statement. So this one is also for the straights that love and support us, and it's for the ones who do not. A reminder that we're here. But before we dive headfirst into that fire, let me be really real with you, because if you haven't noticed already, I'm real. I'm real. What is that song? Anyway, I used to be that gay, the one with the internalized homophobia that was internalized homophobia-ing. And I would be like, do we need pride? Can't we just be proud every day? And that was 15 years ago, and it was less a thought and more a symptom of some deeply rooted queer shame. I don't think that way anymore, but here's the thing. There are still gays who feel that way right now, and even more straight people who act personally victimized by a rainbow flag in the month of June. You know who I'm talking about? You know what I'm talking about. Newsflash, it's not offensive to see people loving themselves just because you don't. Without further ado, now that I've taken up 5 minutes of your time, let's hit it. Let's kick it all off with part 1, the pre-Stonewall climate. And we're setting the stage. It's the 1960s, and being openly gay is not just frowned upon. It is, in some ways, illegal. sodomy laws are in full effect, which criminalize same-sex relationships. Sodomy, also referred to as crime against nature, traditionally meant anal sex, but now generally includes anal and oral sex. So historically, sodomy laws were used to criminalize a variety of sexual acts, often with a focus on homosexual activity. And what about wearing clothing that is not associated with your assigned gender? Well, that is a crime too. Back then, cross dressing was illegal in tons of US cities, and not because of any federal law, mind you, but because of local officials who got very creative with their homophobia and transphobia. There wasn't some big national anti cross dressing law that was passed by Congress. No, that would have been far too honest. Instead, city governments whipped up their own shady little ordinances. They slapped labels like public safety and morality on them to make it sound respectable. But let's be real, because again, I'm real. How many times am I going to do that? Drinking game. Every time I sing I'm real, you take a shot. Let's be real. They were just enforcing gender norms with handcuffs and courtroom fines. These laws were not just targeting drag queens or people trying to sneak into the wrong bathroom. Does that sound familiar? They were used against anyone who stepped outside of society's narrow ass gender binary. People like feminists in pants, hippies doing their own thing, and of course, folks that we now recognize are transgendered. It wasn't about clothes, it was all about control. And what about serving alcohol to homosexuals? Also illegal, and well, sort of illegal. In the early 1960s, while homosexuality was legal in the state of New York, establishments openly serving alcohol to gay customers were considered by the state liquor authority, which is the SLA, to be, this is funny, they were considered to be disorderly houses or places where unlawful practices are habitually carried on by the public. As you can tell, I don't take that seriously. That's some fucking bullshit. I was going to say if I was alive in the 60s, but I'm glad I wasn't because I probably would have been too much of a pussy. The SLA refused to issue liquor licenses to many gay bars, and several popular establishments had licenses suspended or revoked for indecent conduct. We're naughty, we're bad. And businesses that remained open were frequently raided by the police. Police raids on gay bars are common at the time, and the patrons often faced harassment, arrests, public shaming. The Stonewall Inn, located in Greenwich Village, is one such bar. It's owned by the mafia, who see profit in catering to the shunned gay clientele because gays know how to party, and gays know how to do it right, and gays know how to drink, and gays know how to spend their money. So despite the risks, places like Stonewall Inn provided a rare refuge for the LGBTQ plus community, a place to dance, a place to connect, a place to just be yourself. And even if it was just for one night, it was the place to go. Seymour Pine, an NYPD deputy inspector, said, "You knew they broke the law, but what kind of law was it?" This quote underscores the arbitrary and unjust nature of the laws targeting the LGBTQ plus community at the time. Next up, part 2, the night of the riot. June 28th, 1969. In the early hours of the morning, police raid the Stonewall Inn. This isn't unusual, but this time, the patrons have had enough. I hope I'm not going to butcher this name. I'm going to go back to my French lessons and growing up in Canada. Stomé de Leverie. A biracial lesbian is being arrested and reportedly shouts out to other patrons, "Why don't you guys do something?" This call to action ignites the crowd, and we showed those motherfuckers who's boss. That was the start of it all. Marsha P. Johnson, who, that name, icon, a black transgender woman and activist, arrives at the scene and joins the resistance. The crowd fights back, throwing coins, bottles, and bricks at the police. The police are forced to retreat into the bar, barricading themselves inside, which is absolutely hilarious. The police had to find a safe space in a gay bar, which is a safe space for the gays. Fuck. Later, the tactical patrol force arrives to rescue the trapped officers. Poor babies. But the crowd continues to resist. They form kick lines, mocking the police, and chant slogans like badasses. The kick lines. I live. Okay, this next quote gives me chills, and tears, so keep it together. Sylvia Rivera, who was one of the rioters, said, "I'm glad I was in the Stonewall riot. I remember when someone threw a Molotov cocktail, I thought, my God, the revolution is here." Ugh, it gets me every time. Full body chills, tears in my eyes. Like, can you imagine that feeling, just being like, fuck, we're finally doing this. We're finally standing up and we're finally going to make a difference. That just knowing that shit was about to change just pushes me over the edge. The riots continue for several nights, marking a turning point in the LGBTQ plus rights movement. It's also important to note that the Stonewall Inn was already raided earlier that week on Tuesday, and the police had already confiscated illegal liquor as part of their practice of raiding bars without proper liquor licenses. Because remember, gay bars were declined legal liquor licenses as a way to prevent us from being treated like everyone else. So the police were already there earlier in the week. They came back just to cause trouble, and that trouble resulted in the riot that fucking changed it all. Oof, it just makes me so emotional imagining like what that's like. Like we have it so much better now. Still have a long way to go, but like anyway, their motivations were so different. Part 3, a very important part, why riot? So, why did the patrons of the Stonewall Inn decide to fight back that night? Because they were fed the fuck up with systemic oppression. Like the Black Lives Matters movement. People ask why? Why riot? Why take to the streets? Why set things on fire? Because once you have tried everything else and no one is listening, elected officials are ignoring your calls for equality, you have no other option than to fuck shit up. LGBTQ plus individuals face discrimination in every aspect of life, and that did not look like it was ever going to change. Employment, housing, healthcare, just to name a few. They were regularly harassed and brutalized by the police. They had no legal protections, and basically anything goes. If you were gay, anything goes. It didn't matter what happened to you, and it didn't matter what people did to you, and there was no repercussions. Peaceful protests had failed. They failed to bring about any change. So the community realized that to be heard, they had to take a stand. And I fucking stand with it. If you have done all you can do and nothing seems to be changing, you take to the streets and you cause a fucking ruckus until they hear you, until you are on the news, and until they realize that you are not taking any more. And here's a quote from the Stonewall Reader. "There was a ghetto riot on home turf. We already had our war wounds, so this was just another battle." And this quote captures the sentiment of the time, that the riot was a necessary act of resistance against ongoing injustice, that they had already battled. They had already been through riots. They had already fought and fought and fought. They already had their wounds. And to them, this was another fight and another war, and one that would change everything. Part 4, the aftermath and legacy. The Stonewall Riot sparked a new era of activism. The Gay Liberation Front was formed, advocating for LGBTQ plus rights. The first Pride March was held on the anniversary of the riots in 1970. Why am I going to cry? Let me just breathe for a moment. The first Pride March was held on the anniversary of the riots in 1970. Marsha P. Johnson and Sylvia Rivera continued their activism, founding STAR, which stands for Street Trans Action Revolutionaries, to support homeless transgender youth. Like, can you imagine? You're like, a year ago, we fucked shit up and we made some change, and now we're going to turn this into a celebration, which is what we now do every year. Like, this whole episode, full body chills everywhere. I'm dying. Breathe. The riots also led to increased visibility and solidarity within the LGBTQ plus community, which laid the groundwork for future progress. Marsha P. Johnson said, "Darling, I want my gay rights now." And I think we can all relate to that. We should not have to ask for equality. We should not have to ask for rights. We want that shit now. Her quote embodies the urgency and determination that fueled the movement. They wanted their gay rights now, not later, not maybe, not soon, now. The Stonewall Riots inspired similar movements and events across the globe, as well as organizations like UNICEF, UNESCO, and the United Nations speaking out against LGBTQ plus discrimination. Now, Stonewall was not the beginning of the LGBTQ plus rights movement, but it was a turning point. It was a moment when the community said, enough. We have had enough. And look, Pride today looks very different than it did back in the day. And honestly, that is totally okay. We've gone from riot police on the streets to poppers on the dance floor. We went from running for our lives to strutting in jock straps down the boulevard. It's fucking great. It's a celebration, a party, a damn festival of freedom, and we deserve every wild second of it. But here is the tea. Every glitter bomb and every leather harness is standing on the shoulders of some badass queers who went through hell so we wouldn't have to. No, I'm gonna cry again. The drag queens who threw the first brick at Stonewall were not thinking about the after party. They were fighting for survival. And because of them, we can focus on being free, continuing to fight for our rights, not being raided by police. Hopefully, I know some shit's going down, but we're standing on their shoulders. And I've never really, until the last few weeks, thought very in depth about this. And I think that's why it makes me so emo, because it really just kind of hit me. When you really sit down and think about the things that we don't have to experience anymore because of people who fought before us. And unfortunately now you only have to glance at who's sitting in the White House or who's pushing bills trying to erase us to know that the fight is not over. More than ever, we have to keep shouting. We keep marching. We keep making noise so loud that they cannot ignore us. Because to anyone out there who hates, who still doesn't get why pride matters, this last bit's for you. So listen up. We are not going anywhere. This is our life, our love, our family, and our fight. We are human beings, and we're here to stay. Pride is not just a celebration. It's a commemoration of those who fought for the rights we have today. So let's honor their legacy by continuing the fight for equality and justice. And try to take the time, educate yourself, learn about LGBTQ plus history. This was just a small little, maybe 20-minute snippet. There's so much more to it. Advocate for yourself, support policies that protect you and protect your rights, and then celebrate yourself. Honor the courage of those who have come before us and celebrate the freedom that we have. Again, we've got a long way to go and shit's going down. It's a little uncomfy out here, but look back at how far we've come and just continue forward thinking about how far we are going to go. So that was a lot for me, but I don't know if anyone else felt the emotions, but that was a lot. That was heavy. So again, happy Pride Month. I am probably, out of every Pride Month I've ever experienced, I'm most excited about this one. I feel like I am finally proud of who I am, and I hope that we all can get there. If you're listening and you are not, we all have our insecurities, something holding you back, something, about being gay or flamboyant or too short or too tall or too skinny or too fat, any of those things that hold us down. Just remember that we're lucky that we can walk the streets and just be gay, and sometimes it's not safe, but like in comparison, I'm comparing everything back to the 1960s. We're lucky, and embracing that luck and being grateful for the people that fought for us really helps me realize like how proud I am of myself, how proud of the community, how far we've come, and yeah, that's it. I think that's all my wise words of wisdom. Don't be ashamed of who you are. And do not let people that hate us and people that hate pride and are trying to tear down every Pride Month and Pride flag, do not let those fuckers tear you down. They can take flags, they can remove the signs from the bathroom, but they're not going to remove us, and they're not going to remove us from history. So thank you for joining me on this journey. 'Twas a heavy one. And remember, the fight is not over, but together we're going to continue to make progress and fuck some bitches up. If we need to, we'll take to the streets again, motherfuckers. Got it? Good. Happy Pride Month. Thanks for listening to Hot Air with me, Joshua Robert, and I'll see you all next Tuesday with some more gay goodness.